Testing. Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you everyone for being here. How was your morning? You excited? Okay. I'm excited. I think that the design research course, you may have experienced it differently, but wow. Congratulations. I'm just very impressed with the state of the work. It's really well done. And thank you for those of you who were design research faculty. It really feels like you are entering January in the middle of your thesis in a way that has not been true in the past. So I'm very excited about what we're about to do together. So welcome. My name is Robert Cowherd, and I am number 4. We generally are not the most important source of understanding. It may look like we are because we tend to stand in the front of the room and speak from lecterns while you are all seated together looking at a screen. So it's really important to point out that this is not right. This is not normal. We are not the most important source of understanding. So the main way we're going to tackle class at the beginning of every Friday session is by you presenting to each other and then you presenting to the whole class. So that's the appropriate way for this course to be experienced. The most important source of understanding in our world is the world itself. We are all the world's foremost experts on our own life experience. You are experts on what you have experienced in life, and we need that expertise. We cannot do what we need to do in this world without you bringing your expertise, your hard-won experiences throughout your lives. We need you to bring that to work with you every day. At the same time, it's important to recognize that as design professionals, our own life experience is limited. We are expected to have empathy for the users of what we produce. Empathy is the most important design skill, and it all starts with empathy. We do our best to empathize with the users we are designing for, and in a seeming contradiction and impossible jujitsu move, we have to simultaneously recognize that we know nothing. They're the ones who experience it, and we have to shut up and listen to what they have to say. What is their life experience? What is their expertise? Because that's invaluable to what we do. So what's number 2? And if the world is the number 1 source of understanding, why should I pay so much tuition and give up 4 or 5 of the best years of my life getting this education? Well, it's because the skills, the tools, the methods, the way of thinking, the way of seeing of architecture gives us special privileged access to the world. Other people who are not trained as architects do not have access to the lessons of the world that we have access to. Your parents, unless they're designers, they don't see what you see. We have special privileged access because when we look out the window, we cut section through things all the time. It's a habit of mind. We see with laser X-ray vision, we know what's happening. We know that this window pattern means this is an apartment building. That window pattern is a different use. We see things, we see the world, we look down from an airplane, we decode the evidence of the world in a very different way than other professions. Doctors can see your rib cage, architects can see the bathrooms through the walls. And so that gives us special access, and it gives us special responsibility. And it really is the superpower that we are developing. It is those skills of understanding the world and the lessons of the world using these skills that we need you to use every day, all day long. The third most important source of understanding is each other. Your classmates are number three, and you are in turn the number three for your classmates. You are the third most important source of understanding for the people around you. The faculty, we know a lot, we've experienced a lot, we have a lot to offer, but chances are we're not around when you need us. We're at home enjoying our lives. Your classmates are there in the studio next to you. The studio is a laboratory, it's a platform, it's a vehicle for mobilizing and taking advantage of the third most important source of understanding. If you're not in the studio, maybe you can try to replicate it with social media, but there's really no substitute for sitting there and working alongside your classmates. Use noise cancellation devices for when you're fine just working with number one and number two. But when you need number three, it's nice to have them right there next to you. And then on a good day, most class days, the instructor is number four. We bring our own life experience of the world. We support your journey towards mastery of number two. We help you expand your skill set and develop your methods of thinking and looking at the world. And we help you take advantage of the skills and the benefits of working with your colleagues. And then if your colleagues and all 1, 2, and 3 are not giving you a complete picture, we do our best to fill in the gaps. And that's really the important background to the way we teach architecture, the way we teach in studio. Do not wait. Your studio instructors do not want you. You know this. They do not want you to sit and wait for them with your hands folded, looking at a blank piece of paper, waiting for them to tell you what to do. And we learned from study abroad in Spain, this is very different here at Wentworth and maybe in North America, but in a lot of the world, architects are taught to do what the teacher tells them to do. Thank God that's not what we do here. We need you to pursue the work passionately and in a way that is a cycle, a habit of mind where you produce the work, you critique the work, then you produce more work. And it's a self-replicating, it's a self-driving cycle. The work itself is driving us forward. And on a good day, that cycle happens very quickly and we get lost in our work. And it can be, we've all tasted that, right? Remember that feeling of getting lost in your work and it seems to take on a life of its own? This is something, for many of us, this is why we are in architecture, is to revisit that feeling of it's not us having ideas. On a good day, we have good ideas. On a great day, ideas have us. We become the vehicle for these ideas that are much bigger than us. We don't know where they came from. They came through us because we develop the skills of architecture. We look at the world, we pay attention to what we're seeing, and the work itself is what drives us forward. And we do the best we can to create the conditions for that and to nurture each other and to help this magical moment happen. And as often as you can tap into that larger flow of work coming through us, the better. And the work will happen. In the meantime, there's a lot of specific work that is harder. It's not automatic. It doesn't always flow, and it's a struggle. So in the syllabus that you should all have, there are some suggestions on how to succeed. And we strongly encourage you in this course, a thesis seminar, to keep up with the assignments. The assignments are bite-sized chunks of work that have been designed carefully to break up the process of producing what seems like an overwhelming task, which is the thesis book. If you break it up into increments and you tackle it in small bites, 1 week at a time, it becomes much more digestible, and you're more likely to be satisfied and happy, and you're more likely to be healthy and happy throughout the process. So keeping up with the assignments each week is a very important thing. Come to class on time, ready to present, ready to support the presentations of your classmates. And there are resources available in the Institute that you have prepaid for. There is a writing team, a team of writing coaches who can take a look at your writing and help you do better. They won't proofread your work for you, but they will coach you on if there's a crucial paragraph or two or a section of the writing, they can help you find ways to do the job better. So the big question a lot of students have when we tackle this course is, I went into architecture so I wouldn't have to write. I went into architecture so I wouldn't have to read a lot. Why are you making me do this? What is the point of this? Architects don't write. Who's with me? Well, it turns out that architects do write. It turns out that more than ever before in the 21st century, we all write. And you may not think of it as important writing because it's so short. Well, it's so short, it's even more crucial that we are good writers. Anyone can write something long. It takes a good writer to get to it in a shorter form. And this book may seem like a big undertaking, but if you look at the different components, if you look at the discourse review chapter, which many students feel is the most difficult thing to write, it's actually very tight. You have about 20 paragraphs or 30 paragraphs to tackle what needs to be tackled. You cannot put anything in there. You have to carefully select only the things that are going to help develop, enrich, revise, and clarify what your design criteria are at the heart of the thesis. It's actually a very short, tight piece of writing. And if you don't know what to do, just write something long and then edit it down to the length that it needs to be to do its job well. And so the more basic question underlying all of this is, why do we write a book? And you might think, well, we need to write a book because it's a master's program and we need to show something to support the fact that we have a master's degree in architecture. Well, that's a good thing, but it's number 3 on the list. It's nice to have a book that you can print. We encourage you to print it online with the internet publishers, design a nice wraparound paper-bound copy, cover, and give it to your parents and say thank you, because they're a big part of how you got to this point. So that's number 3. It's not the most important reason to write a book. If that were the most important reason, we wouldn't do it if we could avoid it. The second most important reason to write a book is to invite the support of others and to invite the action of others. When this project is done, it's going to be an important body of work that other people will benefit from looking at, from studying. Many of you are benefiting from the thesis books that are in the repository, digitally or physically, of students who have completed this program in the last 18 years. And you're picking up where they left off. Sometimes it literally is, I think 2 years ago, we had a deer blind project in Wyoming. Do you guys remember that? It was, that author picked up the ball from a student who started the process 2 years prior to that. So it sometimes is a very direct connection. We write the book in part to invite the collaboration and invite the continuation and to activate some action in the world. We empower people to take action based on what we have done in the thesis program. We also launch careers. Some people have graduated from Wentworth and have taken their thesis book and made it part of their professional practice. So that can happen as well. But what's the number one reason to write a book? It's the same reason we have a sketchbook in freshman year. In freshman year, you get a sketchbook and you might have that sketchbook on your lap now, and you might be doodling or jotting notes, waiting for something important to be said or presented. We use sketchbooks to make sense of the world, to figure things out, to know what to do next. And it's not just pictures. Look at your sketchbook. What's in there? It's not just pictures. There's an awful lot of words, right? But it's more than just words. It's the juxtaposition of words and visual evidence together. And it's the dialogue that occurs between the words and the sketches that is where the intellectual life of architects unfolds for all of us. This is a habit of mind that is at the core of who we are as architects, and it's where we get our work done. Our best work happens in the sketchbook. So think of that as a quick and immediate part of what architects do. The next thing we find ourselves doing, is we find ourselves presenting. We're showing things on the screen, but we're not saying, here's my work and that's it. We don't go silent. We are speaking to the visual evidence. And this is a good moment to remind you that architects speak about things that we can now see. If we're not seeing it, please don't speak about it. Friends don't let friends say something that they're not showing. So show it, then you can talk about it. If you want to talk about it, you better show it. So this is what we do when we present. That's the expectation of the architectural presentation. And when we prepare to present, when we think through our words, when we translate the visual evidence on the wall into something that can be said to augment it, this is part of what architects do. There's an interplay between the words and the pictures that is a direct extension of the sketchbook. The thesis book is like that, only more serious, more intense, more rigorous, more driven, and more powerful. When you do a design test, that's great. We expect you to be able to speak about the design test. And in order to speak effectively about the design test, it might be a good idea to write it down somewhere. So that's what today's exercise is all about. You did a design test, you presented it yesterday, you put it into words. Do you need more words? Well, not for studio, but in order to really go deep, in order to design better, in order to be more effective, in order to move faster and get to the goal sooner, in order to shed light and open up possibilities beyond what would be possible if you just spoke off the cuff in studio yesterday, we follow it up in thesis seminar. Today, for this exercise, you were asked to write down a text, identify what is working, what is not working, identify why it's working, why it's not working, and translate those reasons why into a set of explicit criteria for success and failure. The working hypothesis of this course, and at this point, 18 years in, we have enough evidence. This is more than a hypothesis. This is proven that when you think more rigorously about what you're doing, you can do it better, you can be more effective, you can go deeper, faster, farther, and discover things that would otherwise not be available to you. So the words in relationship to the pictures are where the power of architecture are released and unleashed. And so the thesis book is a vehicle for unleashing those possibilities. It's a vehicle that helps you do your design work better, faster, deeper, and in ways that your discipline will find meaningful. and that is what a master's program is for, is to welcome you into the discipline as leaders. And it's no coincidence that Wentworth graduates assume positions of leadership in disproportionate numbers in the industry. And we think it's part because of the rigor of our 4 years and how we cap it off in the 5th year. And hopefully in these sessions that we have, we'll have a chance to bring in a panel of recent graduates to allow us to ask them the question, what is the point of the thesis program? Why write a book? And I am willing to revise my view on this, but I think we will hear good things about why we do this. In the interest of time, I'm going to very quickly move through the assignments to give a quick sense of how the different parts connect to the whole. So are you ready for this? It's going to move quickly. The first assignment we've already talked about. It's so important that we're going to ask you to do it again next week as part of the second assignment. Before you actually present your outline, let's get an update on the design testing that you've done between now and next Friday. So do another design test in Studio and tackle it, dissect it, analyze it, figure it out the way you did this design test. And we might ask you to do that every week. The first slide of every assignment might be this assignment over again. And by stacking these up, you are generating chapter 3. If you get in the habit of carefully looking back at the work that you just did each week in Studio, you are producing chapter 3 as a matter of habit. And then once you figure out what is important and how to do this well, you can then retrospectively go back, harvest the most useful design tests from the fall semester, and start to curate that work as well to flesh out chapter 3, which is the most important core of what you're doing in the thesis work. So to back up the criteria that you're demonstrating in chapter 3, we need to understand what prior work of others is most relevant to your work. If you are presenting on April 6th and a guest critic says, so you know what you're doing is just revisiting what Stephen Hull did at St. Ignatius Chapel, right? With the color and the paint. And you say, who? What? That's embarrassing, right? So to prevent that, we make sure, and this we is you make sure your classmates know where other people have tackled similar topics previously, so that you have the benefit of standing on the shoulders of those who have come before and who have done relevant work. Here's what chapter 2 is not. Chapter 2 is not a general presentation. Sustainability is very important to the world. Climate change has increased the temperature of the planet already by 1.5 degrees Celsius. No, that's not chapter 2. Chapter 2 is you go right into the prior work of others. Your audience are other architects, like the people sitting around you. Start from where they are and build in the short space you have in chapter 2. A lot of what we do in thesis seminar is focused on chapter 2. So the first step is next week when we do the outline. Then we figure out, we sharpen our tools of what to do with visual evidence. In sophomore year, when you had a precedent, you just showed pictures. You showed pictures of Peter Zumthor's thermal baths, and you showed the plan of this project or that project. That's great for sophomores. But our ambition in the thesis program is to have every image, every piece of visual evidence that you present in your book and on your final presentation is an image that you have engaged with, an image that you have altered and it becomes your own. You are drawing on top of the Peter Zumthor's thermal baths. You are enhancing parts of the plan to analyze it carefully and get to the point. Similar to the way you said, this is working, this is not working in your work for today, you will be doing that with the prior work of others and saying, look at this, look at what this piece of the architecture is doing so we can understand how architecture does what it does and how then in the text, how that relates to what you are doing in chapter 3. So this assignment is the analysis. This is the visual evidence. This is how we expect you to manage the visual evidence that is part of your discourse review chapter 2. So then with the outline and your visual evidence, now we ask you to write a chunk, a 5 or 6 paragraph chunk of chapter 2 that deals with one issue, that pulls together visual evidence and textual evidence, people who have written about the ideas that you're dealing with, weaving those together. You will not be doing book reports. This paragraph is about the first book I read. The next paragraph is about the second book I read. No, not book reports. When your classmates do that, you tell them, no, you need to put the author, you need to sit the author of the first book down at the table over coffee or scotch with the author of the second book, and they have to talk to each other in a single paragraph. This is a discussion between the authors. Then we're going to push pause, and we're going to ask you, what would you present if you were presenting your thesis today? And in a very short time frame, might be 6 minutes, might be 8 minutes, we're going to ask you to present, not to your classmates in thesis seminar. We're going to shuffle you and put you in contact with other people working on similar topics like we did in the conference, whatever you called it last fall. Conference? Like the conference, we're going to do things differently, break you up and we're going to run it from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So a different schedule. Tell your employers. And you're going to take the feedback and you're going to give the feedback that helps students to take a step back and look at the big picture and visualize what it's going to be like to present on April 6th and be in a better position to visualize the rest of the journey from February 6th to April 6th. Some people would say that's only 2 months. With that perspective, we ask you to do a draft version of your discourse review chapter. And this is a week that might take you more than 8 hours. This is a 4-credit course. The expectation is that you spend something like 8 hours outside of class for every 4 hours you have in class. It's going to vary from week to week. This week, it was a very short work period, I hope. This week, when you're being asked to draft the discourse review chapter, we recommend that you do it in a marathon sitting so you don't lose track of the thread. If you write pieces in chunks, if you write a big piece of writing in little episodes, you find yourself repeating yourself, and it's difficult. So it's a good idea to block out more time for this assignment and just do a quick draft and prove to yourself that you can do this. You got this. Just write from start to finish and then clean it up after the fact. Then we turn our attention to chapter 1. Notice we start with chapter 3. Based on chapter 3, we know where we're going. We know where chapter 2 has to land. So once we know where chapter 2 has to land, because we've done a big part of chapter 3 with all this criteria and methods, then and only then are we in a position to tackle chapter 2. When we know what we're doing in chapter 2, then and only then are we ready to tell our audience the 3 or 4 things that they need to know to be effective collaborators in our work. This is not, Boston was first settled in 1541. No, none of that. You don't get to tell the long history of your site. It's a tight piece of writing. You tell your readers what they need to know, what we need to know to empower ourselves to join you in the design struggle, the collaboration. What do you need your collaborators to understand about the site? What are the forces of history? What are the social forces at work that you're trying to grapple with? You tell us the history, you tell us the social forces, you tell us the demographics to the extent that it helps support us in understanding the situation that empowers us to join you in the design struggle. Okay? So we take a chunk of the work of chapter 1, then we take chapter 1, and again, we write it from start to finish. You may think you've written chapter 2 already in your methods course. You have not. It's very useful to have written about these topics in the fall, and it makes it much easier to rewrite it in the spring, but rewrite it we must, because the work of chapter 3 demands that we rewrite chapter 2 to make it fit with what we're doing in chapter 3. Similarly, the introduction needs to match the lead in to chapter 2. Then we push pause again, and we take another big look at the whole project. And we develop the visual evidence that we're using at multiple scales and multiple perspectives, multiple media. The models are now placed in juxtaposition with the site plans, with the diagramming, and all of these forces come together graphically in the Making Masters layout. And with this understanding of the actual architectural work that you're developing, now you're ready to write the abstract for your thesis. And there is a very specific sentence by sentence formula for writing an effective abstract that we will be working with you on. It's not so intimidating when you break it down in its component parts. Then 10, 11, 12, this is the finish. You're focusing on developing your final outcomes for presentation, and you pull everything together in your draft book, and we help you identify the holes, the weak spots, the stuff that doesn't belong, the things that need to move from chapter 2 down to chapter 1. All of that work happens in a consultation week. We're working one-on-one or two-on-one with your instructor. And then in the week before the final thesis presentation on April 6th, we work with you on your script for presentation. This part of the semester, your thesis studio instructors might be patient and let you, when you give your first 8-minute or 10-minute presentation. Last year, students were giving their 10-minute presentations, and somewhere around minute 14 of their 10-minute presentation, they were finished presenting the site, right? And some of them never even got to a design test. I'm happy to say that I don't think that's going to happen this year. In the final presentation, you will have an opening statement that in one sentence, you're going to be asked to tell us when your architecture is doing what it's supposed to do, what does it do? Some people might think of that as a thesis statement, but in an effective presentation, the first sentence is, here's the big idea. This is what the architecture promises to do. That's the first minute after that, you're setting the context. What is the situation? What are the forces that make this so challenging? In the second minute, you're saying, here's the prior work of others that informs the design testing. And at the start of minute 3, you're pointing at the work on the screen or on the wall. You're saying, here's what it looks like when it's working. Look at this, look at this, look at this. You're talking about it because you're showing it to us. And this is a remarkably efficient way. Some of your predecessors have found they don't need the 10 minutes they're given on April 6th. We don't know how much time you're going to have, but your predecessors said, I don't need 10 minutes. I can do it in 8. I can do it in 7 because the presentation is rehearsed, it's scripted, and it's tight. It does what it needs to do with the clearest, most direct presentation that can be made. And we've even had alumni come back to us and report. We had one graduate who went from Wentworth's master's program to Harvard's master's program. And the first time he presented, the professor turned to him and said, how did you do that? Who are you? And he answered, I'm a Wentworth graduate. And that's what we're shooting for everyone. So have we figured out, can you count on us to manage your time? No, that's your job. Can you count on us to be in lockstep agreement with your studio instructor? No, that would be so cute, right? But that would be shortchanging you. We're going to be just like all of the other reviewers you've had throughout your careers in architecture. We're going to have our viewpoints. We're going to, you deserve a reason why we're saying what we're saying. Ask us, challenge us to justify what we're saying about your work. But do not expect us to agree with your thesis studio instructor. Your studio instructor is number 4. We're number 4. It's not our job to agree with each other. If anything, if we're in agreement with each other, it might be a corruption of the system. On a good day, we do agree with each other. It's very clear where you're going and where you need to go, but don't count on it. It's your job to figure that out, okay? And I think that's it. That's the presentation. Well, welcome to Thesis Seminar and good luck.